they're trying to take away from us to make voting harder. So it is my intention to fight this, to ensure that we have what is needed so that this does not affect Detroiters. And so more importantly than ever before in this particular race, experience matters. And I have that crucial experience, and I seek your support for re-election. Thank you.
Phyllis, since Ms. Winfrey is going to have to leave, I think our youth member has some questions for Ms. Winfrey. So Jacqueline McClanahan, our youth member from First Baptist, do you want to go ahead and ask some questions of Ms. Winfrey?
Sure. Okay, so my name is Jacqueline McClanahan, and I am an 11th grader at Cass Technical High School. So my first question for you is, what is the amount of youth participation in city elections?
That's an excellent question, Jacqueline. I'm a Cass Tech graduate, and so it's an honor to meet you, and I'm proud of the work that you're doing. So what we do is we recruit very heavily from the high schools. You may remember before the pandemic, we came into Cass Tech and we did a mock election, and everyone voted at Cass Tech, all of the students. We did Cass Tech, we did King, and we did several other high schools, Henry Ford. We held mock elections, and we used a ballot that your government team, your youth government team put together. They put things on that ballot that you're interested in, like being able to use your cell phones on your breaks. And I think you all wanted different foods in the lunchroom and the like. So we brought our team there. We made up actual ballots and brought our equipment there. So you have an opportunity to use that equipment. And the outcome of that election was what you all are actually living with and experiencing now, showing you that your vote matters. In addition to that, Jacqueline, we recruit 16-year-olds from all of the high schools. Because of the pandemics, we haven't been able to get in there, of course, last year, and this year they aren't allowing us in there as well. But we have over 500 high school students that work with us right now. We created a classification poll worker called the electronic poll book inspector. And all that person does is they look up the voter record using the laptop. We designed that for high school students. One, because we know you're familiar with electronics, one. Two, we want you to participate in the process. And we know when we bring you in and we hire you and we pay you, those are the individuals that stick and stay and process and participate in the election when they become of age.
Okay, thank you for your response. I do remember that mock election. I was a 9th grader at the time.
Good.
I enjoyed it.
I'm glad.
So my second question for you is, what strategy do you have to increase youth participation?
So the one strategy that I use that I find successful is we hire you. We hire you at every level. We have young people, probably about 50 high school students right now that come in and they work after school with us. They work our second shift with us. We know that when we engage you in that process, when we teach the process to you, that you have a tendency to stick and stay. In addition to that, Jacqueline, we also have a young up and coming leaders. These are our millennials, our recent high school grads, our recent college grads. And what we've done is we've hired, these are full-time staffers, and we train them. We pay for their college education at WC3 East. We want these young people they know the culture. They've been working with us for several years now. They know the culture. They have leadership positions. We teach them the importance of saving. We teach the importance of budgeting. And we just had a fashion show on dressing for success. So we realize that I'm not going to be here forever, and neither is my middle-aged staff, but we know that you're next. So we're preparing for our next. In fact, my deputy city clerk, who is next in line under me, in the org chart, he is a 32-year-old African-American male. He's been with me for 10 years and he's doing a fabulous job. He's next.
All right, thank you. So we have
You're
one
welcome.
last question. With all the cutbacks that have been placed for years, what is your plan to restore some of the funding to recreation so that young people have a safe place to play and congregate?
Yes, so that's a city council question as it relates to recreation. However, it's important to know, Jacqueline, that we have received millions of dollars in grants so that we can enhance the voting process for voters. But it's interesting that you should say that what are we doing in terms of recreation centers? Again, that's a city council question. It's not under my purview. But what I have done in my building is I've identified space for workouts at no cost. I like my staff to work out. I like the young people to get all that energy out of them. So we have the workout balls, we have free weights, we have hula hoops and the like. And those young people, all people, including me, we use that space for that kind of purpose so that we can get some of the stress off of us, if you will.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jacqueline.
Thank you, Ms. Winfrey and Jacqueline. Appreciate that. Well, we're going to go back to our original order of this evening's forum. And I'm going to take you back to the City Council. And what I'd like to share with you is a few things. I think we all recognize that the City Council is our body of legislation that takes care of implementation of programs and our city services. And we have with us this evening, I think we have with us this evening, Ms. Calloway. And Ms. Calloway is running for District 2, where our church resides, for the City Council. So, Ms. Calloway, if you are on, I'd like to hand it over to you for you to introduce yourselves to the audience and to tell us what office you're running for. I've already done that. And why you should be our candidate of choice. Ms. Calloway, are you there?
Phyllis, I don't think she is on, but we do have Nicole Small, who is a city council candidate at large, who is on.
Okay, now, yeah, Ms. Small, well, we'll proceed with you. And Ms. Small, her particular role represents the residents of Detroit as a whole, not a Pacific district, but the city in general. So, Ms. Small, would you like to address us?
Sure. Good evening, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I greatly appreciate it. Do you just want me to give you a brief background? I wasn't clear about myself, or just tell a little bit about my platform?
Sure. You can, yeah, you have 5 minutes.
All right, thank you for that. So I am born and raised in the city of Detroit. I love my city. I have watched a lot of changes go on in the city, and some of them are good, some of them not so good. And I decided, after working the last 3 years on policies that would help build a more equitable government in Detroit and to provide safeguards in our city's constitution while on the Charter Commission, that we really need is leadership that not only will implement the ordinances and the policies that are already in place on the charter, but also we need someone in leadership to make sure that they negotiate and present new policies and possibly ordinances. Born and raised on the West Side, I am a former UAW member and representative, took the education buyout to go and get my master's in HR and organizational development. So I definitely understand contract negotiation, well-versed in that, but more importantly, the value that people not only offer to an organization, but but the value that Detroiters actually offer to this city. And for me, it seems that that has been severely overlooked. We have a lot of money coming into this city while we have a $2.7 billion budget that we're operating under. Last year, we received $92 million in CARES Act funds, which was supposed to support the financial crisis of Detroiters. And this year, we received nearly $1 billion in American Rescue Plan dollars that was appropriated for to support improving neighborhood services and neighborhoods itself. So instead, most of the money is invested, $50 million to extend the Riverwalk, $26 million in streetscapes, $20 million into bike lanes. So this shows that there's a severe disconnect of a lack of negotiation, but also understanding of the reality and the lived experience of the average Detroiter. We needed those dollars desperately to come into our neighborhoods, to create safer neighborhoods, to fix sidewalks, trim trees, and give us more money for home repair, also to invest in our seniors in a meaningful way. So those are just some of the reasons why I'm running. I am committed to negotiating benefits for Detroiters. It's not as if we don't have a lot of opportunities, resources coming into this city. Unfortunately, we just don't have that leadership at large to be the conduit to all 7 districts to make sure that we share that information. But more importantly, let's open up the door so Detroiters can access those opportunities. And I think that's like 4 minutes and 50 something seconds.
Okay.
I want to be respectful of time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate that. What I'd like to do at this point is if Miss Waters, is Miss Waters on?
Miss Waters isn't on, but Miss Calloway is.
I know. I really wanted to finish up with the members at large, but since Ms. Waters is not here, then we will go back and speak with Ms. Calloway. Ms. Calloway, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I was having some slight technical difficulties earlier. So forgive me for not being available, but thank you for this opportunity. And your beautiful church is in my district. I canvassed your church. I put some information on the cars that were parked on your parking lot, and I put some information in your doorway about 2 weeks ago. And I had the opportunity to meet someone because they came to the door and greeted me. So I don't know who that was, but they greeted me and told me they would invite me to this forum. So that woman kept her word. And so I'm glad to be here this evening. My name is Angela Whitfield Calloway. I'm a lifelong Detroiter. I've lived on the West Side my entire life. Graduated from Cooley High School, went on to get my BA in English and Education from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. After I left Spelman, I got married, started having children, went to law school, graduated, earned my Juris Doctor from the Detroit College of Law on Michigan State's campus. And this past summer, I got a certification from Yale's Law School and campaign law. So I'm very serious about this run. I've invested in this run for Detroit City Council. I am the best candidate. I don't consider myself a rubber stamp, and that's the type of representation I think we're getting right now from the current council person who's representing us downtown Detroit. I'm very frustrated. My 3 daughters were arrested last summer with the vote of the council person who represents District 2. And that same council person voted to sue the protesters last summer. And that suit was close to $300,000. Initially it was $200,000, but that greedy law firm came back and asked for more money to extend the life of the contract and sued the peaceful protesters. And 3 of my daughters were part of that lawsuit. That case was later dismissed by a federal judge. It wasn't considered frivolous, but she dismissed it because she said they lacked the evidence to prove that it was a conspiracy to incite a riot. So I'm running because I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed with the representation that we're receiving. There's a whole lot we can do. I'm reading an article now where there are 98,000 folks living in low income housing. And of that number, a lot of them are homeless. So we have a lot of work to do in the city, and we're not getting the representation that we deserve and that we pay for. And then we had a program that the mayor started maybe a week or so ago to repair roofs. Well, 5,000 people applied for that assistance, and only 1,000 people actually are getting that assistance. So I said we have to increase the amount of money for the roof repairs, and roof repairs are not the only repairs that people need. They're asking for total home repair. Some people might need a new furnace. Some people may not need a new roof. Some people may need a new porch awnings, gutters, siding. We, the people, deserve to have our voices heard and not be dictated to. I feel like we're being dictated to. I attended a Zoom call, a couple of them, and we were being told how the money was going to be spent. And we were given 5 categories to fit our suggestions into. Well, some of those categories couldn't allow any of us to offer any suggestions in terms of how the American Relief Funds would be spent. In my opinion, the relief funds have already been spent. We have a lot of complaints over here in District 2 about the proliferation of bike lanes. If we can spend multi-million dollars on bike lanes, we can certainly help people fix up their homes. We can certainly help people not get their water turned off. We can certainly help them pay their DTE rates, which are still continuing to go up, and the services are lackluster. So we have a lot of work to do in District 2. And I have knocked on thousands of doors, and some of the folks who are on the campaign trail have seen me out there knocking on these doors. I'm meeting residents. I'm just not knocking on doors. I'm actually engaging the residents. There's a lot of blight too in District 2. There's a lot of beautiful homes in District 2, but there's a lot of not so beautiful homes. And that's my reason for running for District 2, because we're being overlooked. There's a total disengagement in terms of what we have, in terms of the representation, in terms of what we deserve and what we need right now, moving forth into the next 4 years at that council table. I intend to be that voice. I haven't been co-opted. I haven't been compromised, and I'm not accepting $50,000 from the Ambassador Bridge. And now there's a contract. There's some negotiations going before the council now involving the Ambassador Bridge in their second span. So now when you accept $50,000 plus from the Ambassador Bridge, they're going to expect you to vote in their favor, even though voting in their favor is against the people who live in that area where that second span is being planned. I hope the second span is not going to be built, because the people over there are complaining about what's happening right now in that area in terms of air quality, noise pollution, the trucks going up and down their side streets. We have to have a council that begins to listen to the people who put them in the office. And the current council is there for selfish reasons. They have forgotten why they're there. And they're there to listen to the people and to do the people's business. And that's why I'm running for Detroit City Council, because I'm clear on why I'm going to be voted in, why I'm running for this office. And that's just to be the voice of the people. And I thank you for this opportunity.
Well, I want to thank both you and Ms. Hall. I can sense your passion and your commitment to make a difference in the city of Detroit. What I'd like to do at this point in time is I'd like to turn it over to our youth moderator, Ms. Jacqueline McClanahan. And I think she has a few candidates that she would like to introduce to us. Jackie?
Okay. Candidates for the office of City Clerk are Ms. Janice Winfrey, incumbent, and Mr. Denzel Mccampbell. The city's clerk primary function is as administrator of elections within the city of Detroit. Yep. Oh, questions. I'm sorry.
We just had Miss Winfrey.
Right.
And so now we can go to Mr. McCampbell.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Hi there, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Jacqueline and Ms. Reynolds and Ms. Philpott Berg, and also to Pastor Moore and the members for hosting this great forum and really engaging folks and providing the information. Thank you so much. Did you want me to go ahead with the 5 minutes now? Okay, sounds good. All right. So hi, everyone. My name is Denzel Mccampbell. I am a candidate for Detroit City Clerk. I was born and raised on the city's east side near 7 Mile Orion, now living on the west side in District 7 near Rouge Park. And what I'll tell you is that I am a young person. I'm 29 years old, but I bring a great deal of experience when engaging with community, especially around the issues that are important to our communities, but also voting rights and election protection. In 2014, I started working around voting rights with election protection efforts. And what this involved was recruiting legal and non-legal volunteers to actually go out to polling locations where voters were experiencing problems across the state, including in the city of Detroit. And we would work with the poll workers and the various clerks' offices to make sure that those eligible voters actually voted. And as we got those complaints in, we would then follow up to say, okay, we got a lot of complaints about long lines. Let's work to reconfigure the polling locations. So we got a lot of complaints about, requiring people to vote, to show their ID, even though you can sign an affidavit. So let's make sure that your poll worker training is up to date and robust in that way. I was also part of the early planning group around the Promote the Vote effort, which was Proposal 3 in 2018, which brought us no reason absentee voting, which also brought us same-day registration and pre-registration for 16 and 17-year-olds. I was also a part of the early planning around the independent redistricting reform as well. I recently served as a communications director and advisor for Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, where I advised on federal voting rights legislation, including the For the People Act, which is now the Freedom to Vote Act, which we need to absolutely get through the U.S. Senate to make sure we're fighting back against these voting rights attacks that we've seen. And also served along with Vice Chair Small on the Charter Revision Commission, where Vice Chair Small and I and the commission also put forth language to increase funding in the city clerk's office and to increase engagement and turnout in the city of Detroit. So what I want to put forth to folks is that I definitely do bring that experience to this race, to this office, an experience that actually brings results to our community, and one that is in tune of what folks are going through and what folks are feeling about what we are experiencing in the city of Detroit. And what I'll tell you is that right now, folks are deeply disappointed about the lack of engagement and education around our elections. Folks are deeply disappointed about not being able to get their absentee ballots on time or sending in multiple applications and never getting an absentee ballot. Folks are disappointed about the lack of youth engagement that we're experiencing in the city. And I'll also tell you, folks are they want new and innovative change when it comes to engagement in the city of Detroit. So again, my name is Denzel Mccampbell. I'm running to bring those innovative ways forward. I'm running to fix the issues with our elections, to make sure folks do get their absentee ballots on time, to make sure folks know about elections early and often, to make sure that we're actually paying attention to the shifts in voters in the way that we vote, right? You know, when we had the Promote the Vote, that shifted the way that people voted, especially around the pandemic. So we shifted to a lot of absentee voting. So that means that the information needs to get out earlier, right? So we need to make sure that we're doing that that paying attention to the voting behaviors of folks. We need to do more engagement by meeting people where they are. And we need to also push back against these voting rights attacks and have a city clerk that will advocate for the expansion of those voting rights. And the last thing I'll touch on, because we just had the city council candidate speak, you know, right now it is the duty of the city clerk to be the clerk of the council and to provide the information to folks when it comes to agendas, meetings, and votes. And right now we can't find that information online. And as we need to have that access to that information to increase transparency, and you will be able to make sure that we're holding folks accountable and seeing how they're voting on these contracts, seeing how they're voting on in our interests or against our interests. And that way we can hold our council members accountable as well. So again, Denzel Mccampbell, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you. At this time, our youth moderator, would you like to address Mr. McCampbell with the same questions that you directed to Ms. Winfrey?
All right. So my first question for you is, what is the amount of youth participation in city elections?
You know, I'll tell you, Jacqueline, we don't have a lot of youth engagement in our city elections, right? And I see that by the way that we're going when I go door knocking to folks and when I talk to the folks in my friend groups. And it's not that we don't care what's going on in our city. And I consider myself to be upon the youth for now. I'm still 29, but we care about what's going on in our city, but we're just not getting that engagement, right? You know, what I'll tell you is that we have young folks who are working multiple jobs. You have folks that are trying to provide for their families, or even still trying to provide for parents and grandparents and things and such, just like a lot of Detroit Detroiters across the city who have a lot going on. And we need to make sure that we have a city clerk's office who are meeting folks where they are in the various ways that we get information. So for example, I bring up this example all the time about, I know you probably have a TikTok. We probably watch TikTok videos, right? We can find ways to engage folks in that way around, where to vote, what's coming up in the election, what's on the ballot, right? And these are things that don't cost money. It just costs, it takes the creativity. And what I'm committed to doing as a Detroit City Clerk is actually having young folks involved in the city clerk's office to advocate and to advise on the ways and the innovative ways that we can reach out to folks, because it's going to take us and the ideas that we have to reach out to our age group. And I feel that way for every age group, that we have to have everybody at the table to inform how folks are experiencing voting, what are ways that we can change, and how do we get in front of people and reach them where they are.
Okay, thank you. So my second and last question is, what strategy do you have to increase youth participation?
Absolutely. So in addition to what I cover, and sorry for going ahead on the question, but what I'll also say is this, Jacqueline, is that we need to see more folks, more young people in leadership roles, and not just in the way of saying go out and vote, but as I talked about, having young folks at the table, informing those decisions, having folks in the administration, and not just the city clerk's office, but also across the city council and the mayor's administration. But also, it's not just about the city clerk's office. We have to make sure we're working with block clubs, neighborhood associations, and faith institutions to help reach out to young folks in our community, and have the conversation of asking the simple question of which issues are important to you, connecting the dots. If you're talking about recreation, to say the city council and the mayor controls the parks and recreation budget. So here are ways to engage them. It's not telling people how to feel one way or another, but it's actually providing the information so that folks can activate their own agency for change. And that's what young folks are demanding. That's what folks across the board are demanding, that they have the tools to provide the accountability, that they have the tools to hold their elected officials accountable, and that they also be a part of the change and not just be talked at, but they actually be talked with, and to be an inclusive government, because government is truly of and for and by the people. And we have to make sure that our city government reflects that. And as a Detroit City Clerk, I will ensure that we're doing all types of ways to have that feedback loop, that we're implementing changes, and also going back to say, did it work? What didn't work? How can we make it better? And over again until we get to the place that we will have robust engagement at the ballot box and beyond in our city government.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good. Yes, I express my thank yous to you as well as Ms. Winfrey. And I want to thank Ms. Waters. She has joined us. But what we're going to do at this point in time is continue on with our forum. And I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Primos, who is our third moderator, to give his comments and introduce his candidates.
Well, good evening, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Like Ms. Reynolds said, my name is Deacon Charles Primos from First Baptist Institutional Church, and it's my honor to be the moderator for this portion of the forum. Now, the Ministry of Social Justice Candidate Forum is very important, and I'm pleased at this time to present the candidates for the police commissioner. Now, the police commissioner is a very important position because it increases the public confidence in the police department by increasing the accountability and oversight. Now, the candidates we have today have Ms. Linda Bernard and Mr. Lavish T. Williams. Now, I would like both of the candidates to express in 5-minute period of time their platform and why they feel that we should deserve their vote. Now I'm not seeing the incumbent, Ms. Bernard. Is she available?
I don't think she's on yet.
Okay, in that case, Mr. Lavish T. Williams, I see your your profile here. And if you would please unmute yourself and please give us 5 minutes on your platform and give us a good reason why we should vote for you.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Lavish T. Williams. I want to thank everybody for having me and inviting me to this forum. I think that I'm a great choice for this position because we need someone that's going to be actively involved in the community, in the neighborhood, actively involved with the Board of Police Commissioners, hearing the needs and concerns of the citizens that we protect, that we serve, that voted us into this office. Me personally, myself, I engage with a lot of individuals my age and younger, as well as older. I'm a 40-year-old small business owner. I own several different businesses. I also have a mentoring program for at-risk youth from the ages of 16 to 24. So I feel like an individual such as myself plays a very important role getting in this position because I can be very transparent to both sides. It's a lot of troubled youth out here, as well as young individuals that live in a social media microwave era. They're not engaged with what's evolving as far as politics. Not saying everyone cares about that, but they're living in a world where social media dictates what's cool. Me, myself, I want to be transparent to the younger generation, all of those individuals, let them know me, myself, I'm just like you. And it's cool to be involved with the community, to know what's going on. A lot of times I have met people as I've been campaigning, they're not even aware of what the role in the job or duties of Detroit Police Commissioner is or are. So I have to educate them. I find it my job and my duty and my responsibility to keep them abreast and aware of what's going on in the community. And I'm hoping an individual such as myself can be an individual that other people can model. And when I say other people, I'm talking about the younger generation, as well as me dealing with the older generation that's been there before me. I can learn a lot from them. And I also like to listen to them and hear what they have to say. So many oftentimes, a lot of individuals, we're not listening to the seniors. The seniors are not being heard, and they pack a lot of information and knowledge that we need to be obtaining from them. Within the Board of Police Commissioners, we don't get that. I don't see that we get that. Again, as I've been campaigning, a lot of people, they don't even know who their current police commissioner is, nor what the jobs and duties of the police commissioners are. As I sit back and I look at the meetings every Thursday, I don't see a level of respect within the members of the board. Me, myself, I come to bring to the table a level of respect amongst each other. If we can't respect ourselves as we sit on the board as police commissioners, how can you, the voters, the citizens, and the residents of Detroit, of the city of Detroit, how can you take us serious? How can you respect us? You can't. So I believe that I'm very strong in that aspect, as well as being a young Black male in the city of Detroit. I understand what's going on with the police. And I do believe in dealing with things concerning police misconduct. I do believe in hearing the needs of the citizens, such as citizen complaints, and the list goes on and on. I have to be active in all areas of the police commissioner's job description, as well as being involved with the community. And when I say be involved with the community, if I don't be involved with them, I won't hear the concerns and needs to be able to be effective. I plan to be an individual that make these block club meetings because I want to be engaged on what's going on so that I can better do my job as police commissioner. That's a little bit of the background of me, Lavish T. Williams, which again, these are some of the issues and concerns and things that I feel I better fit this position for. That's my time.
Thank you very much. Is it possible I can ask Mr. Williams a question now, or are we going to wait till Ms.
Yes,
Bernard is available?
you can go ahead now and ask Mr. Williams the questions.
Mr. Williams, on Sunday, October 10th, the Detroit Free Press published an editorial in the opinion section, which is very critical of our current police commissioner board. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but it was very concerning. The original purpose of the board is to investigate citizen complaints, to hold abusive police officers accountable, and to make sure that budget for the Department of Police is being used appropriately. And the article made the point that today's board is no longer functioning as it was created to be. It has become dysfunctional. And that they hold endless meetings, and all they do is take complaints from the citizens, but nothing is done. And as a result, lawsuits against the city are skyrocketing at this point. First of all, do you agree with that assessment? And secondly, what can you do to change that perception with your candidacy?
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of start backwards on that. I can do a lot with it. I can start off fresh with new ideas. I can't say who will be on the board, who will be reelected, and who will be newly elected. My goal is to work with everybody. And as I say to various different individuals, it's all right to agree to disagree, but we still have to be respectful of each other. And there's a lack of respect currently on the board. The Detroit Police Commissioners, their job is civilian oversight. And far too many times we don't see the civilian oversight part being spoke upon in these meetings. In my words, it's almost like it's police oversight, because none of the issues dealing with the community and the citizens are hardly ever talked about. If you pay attention to these meetings, you have public comments that's at the very end of these meetings with a 2-minute remark. Throughout the course of the meetings, all we're hearing is reports from the OCI reports, the chief's reports, the sergeants from this department, their reports. We're hearing reports. What we're not hearing concerns and issues dealing with the city, the people in the city, the residents in the city. So how can we be truly, how can it be truly civilian oversight when the civilians never get to voice their opinions? Me personally, I plan to, as I say, I want to be involved with the block clubs. So I plan on being engaged on what's going on so that me as a commissioner for my district and for throughout the city can go back to the board and say, hey, we have issues going on with this individual. We have complaints over here that have not been resolved. We have a lady over here that has a problem with this. I'm listening to the people over here speak on that. I want to take the issues and complaints and problems that I'm hearing from the people that matter, and those are the people that vote and put me in office when elected. I want to speak on those problems amongst the board. We need to talk about those problems. We need to talk about the problems that the citizens have. We need to talk about the problems that they have with the police officers. If there's any police officers that's not doing their jobs, any of the misconduct, we need to speak on those things in these commissioners meetings. And so far, we're not hearing those things in these commissioners meetings. So that's what I plan to bring to the meeting. I plan to talk about the money, the budget. I mean, there's so many different things I plan to talk about, because a lot of individuals, and when I say individuals, I'm talking about the residents, they don't really know what's going on. All we do is hear in these meetings them talk about police stuff, nothing on the civilian level, and it's civilian oversight. So where's the civilian oversight? Because we as civilians, we have all kinds of issues that's underlying in our community, and they get overlooked. So that's what I plan to bring to the table, letting these people speak to me. They need to be heard, and I need to relay the message to the board of police commissioners as I sit up there to try to get things done.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Reynolds, that's all the only question I had for Mr. Williams.
Okay, well, thank you, Deacon Primos. We have candidate at large, Mary Waters, with us. So let's take a few minutes and hear her platform. Ms. Waters. Are you with us, Ms. Waters? Well, since I don't have a response from her right now, We do have someone that's monitoring our chat, and I think there are a few questions that may be specific to some of our candidates. So can I ask Ms. Sturdivant to share any questions that may be specific for a candidate with us at this time?
Good evening, everyone. We do not have any questions in the chat right now, so we may wish to open it.
Okay, well then that's fine. Let me ask one more time. Ms. Waters, are you there? Okay, well, I am going to begin the questions. And this is for any candidate that would like to respond. And my first question is, what is the most important issue facing Detroit? Anyone?
I'll go. This is Angela Whitfield Calloway. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so as I indicated earlier, I've knocked on thousands of doors, and I've been knocking on doors since the early spring. And the number one concern is crime, is public safety. People not feeling safe in their homes, people not feeling safe at the gas pump, people not feeling safe driving down the freeway. Last week, a young man was shot in the mouth. It wasn't it was a random shooting. Just a couple days ago, a young couple was shot and killed at a gas station in their car with a 9-month-old in the mother's arms. So until we wrap our arms around the crime, people are going to continue to leave this city. And that's the main reason why people are leaving the city. It's the crime. It's not feeling safe in our homes, not feeling safe doing the average things that other people outside of Detroit feel comfortable doing. Going to the grocery store, driving up and down the freeway, visiting your relatives, visiting your friends, going to the mall. It's the crime, public safety. So, and then after that, I would have to say it's blight, abandoned homes, abandoned buildings. There's a building not too far from your church, right on the corner of 7 Mile and Gilchrist. The building has been abandoned and neglected for years. I would have to say almost a decade. I did a live. I went on Facebook Live, and I think you all know what I'm talking about. It's right on the corner of Gilchrist and 7 Mile, and it has 3 buses or vans parked. I think it's home ownership program is on the side of the truck. And I take issue with that. So I called the owners out. I said, if you own this property, clean it up. The weeds are growing up almost 4 feet tall through the cracks in the sidewalk. I'm on the sidewalk and I almost ran into a weed, so other than the crime and the blight, I mean, we can go on and on and on, but to answer your question, it is the crime. Public safety.
Mrs. Reynolds, Ms. Waters is live now, and then you have Lavish, and then you have Nicole to respond to that question.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Calloway.
You're welcome.
Let me take Ms. Small's. I do see Ms. Small's hand, so let's take Ms. Small's response, and then we'll follow with Mr. Williams, and then we'll have remarks from Ms. Waters. Okay, Ms. Small.
Thank you for the opportunity to ask this question. For me, running citywide, going throughout these 140 square miles of this city, talking to people from all 7 districts, it's the lack of access to the so-called resurgence in the city. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Every time there's something passed the city council, for why we're selling off the state fairgrounds to Ross Perot's company in Texas, for the reason why we're giving away Herman Kiefer and 300 parcels to a man who doesn't even live in this state. We're always told about these deals are great because they're going to bring jobs. Same thing that we were told about the 100-foot skyscraper on the Hudson Ware site for Dan Gilbert, of where 300 and something tax credit subsidies were given out, and we are going to get jobs. Yes, jobs come to Detroit. The problem is that Detroiters, for the most part, don't have access to those jobs because the majority of contractors come here already with a full crew and zero intentions on really engaging and giving Detroiters an opportunity. Then you have another issue, access to the resources to improve public safety in your neighborhoods in a meaningful way, access to the money that would help you stay in your home, access to really acquiring land in this city. I don't know if you realize this, we're 60% renters now, and the majority of land that's being sold off the land bank is going to investors. It's not because people are outbidding us, it's because we don't have access to it, and we don't have access to affordable water or affordable housing. But yet, people in the suburbs who we're filtering the water for and processing it, and we house the water, they have lower rates. The same thing with the utility rates. A lot of Detroiters just want an opportunity to have access to this resurgence. And the problem is the majority of it is being housed downtown and in majority affluent neighborhoods, and the rest of the Detroiters are just left to fend for themselves. So we have to do better by the Detroiters and make sure that they have access to this.
Thank you, Ms. Small. Mr. Williams, would you like to remark?
Yeah, I think from me being out here campaigning this year, a lot of things that I have learned and experienced was the lack of knowledge that a lot of people have within the city and the district. They lack a lot of knowledge, and some of the knowledge that they're going searching for, they can't find it. They don't have anyone that they can depend on to share the knowledge and the information with them. A lot of people, they're beginning to become hopeless with the city, with the way city issues and departments are ran. These are things that I'm hearing when I'm out here campaigning. They're starting to give up and feel as if no one cares. And when I say they, I'm speaking about the people that live in my neighborhood, the people that live from where I'm from. And what I mean by where I'm from, I'm talking about the real Detroit. The real Detroit to me is not the downtown revitalized Detroit. The people that's been here since the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, those individuals, those are the ones that's slowly starting to feel like, hey, I'm just going to give up because they're trying to push us out. I can't afford this. I don't know how to do this. So these are issues that I'm hearing from individuals. And I mean, I'm just running for a police commissioner, and they need and want someone that would just listen. And I listen to everybody. And these are, like I say, these are just issues that I see. And then the lack of respect that individuals have amongst each other. When they feel like they can't call any city department, and when they do get in contact with someone, just the treatment that they get. These individuals, they don't work for the city, so they don't know how the city operates. They don't know the job of the employees that work for the city. So they're unknowing to what they're trying to get done. So when they're looking for information, they're getting this treatment. So their attitude is like, in so many words, forget y'all. I'm gonna figure it out myself. And figuring out themselves, it can cause all types of other problems. It's just open doors for other problems. And I think that we need more resources and programs that can really, and I'm not saying just financial, I'm speaking on just information, because there's a lot of individuals, even from my neighborhood. You speak on Livernois, you speak on 6 Mile in Wyoming, and they did a whole bunch of road work over there. But then you ask people that's actually residents that live here, not business owners, they never heard anything about meetings to talk about redevelopment over here. I'm not saying that that the literature and the information wasn't out there, but I'm hearing this from individuals that's lived in this area, and they're complaining about, why wasn't we informed? Where were the meetings at? Why didn't they make a big fuss about it? I mean, they put everything else all over the news, all over the papers. I'm not saying that they did or they didn't, but these are issues that I'm hearing out there. So I feel that we need to be more vocal. We need to educate more people and let people be aware of what's going on out here, instead of just keeping things up under the radar, where individuals have to search hard to find this information and resources.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I think all of you have pointed to the fact that we have a mammoth job ahead of us. I'd like to switch now to Ms. Waters and let her introduce herself and her platform. Ms. Waters? I hope I didn't lose you again. Ms. Waters?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm
Yeah.
in my car and I'm in my car driving too, so it makes it a
Be
bit
safe.
difficult as well. Yes. So, but how is everyone this evening or tonight rather? And thank you for the opportunity. First Institutional Baptist Church. I haven't been there in several years, but I certainly remember it well. And I was speaking with one of your members today, who outlined some of your concerns and the fact that you want to revitalize 7 Mile, West 7 Mile Road again. And so I did listen to Miss Lois in detail, and I told her that absolutely, if I should be fortunate enough to get on City Council, I would certainly work with First Institutional Baptist to make those things happen. I'm a former state representative. I served in Lansing for 6 years. I served you with honor and integrity. The entire 6 years, I did not miss one single day of work. And why do I talk about that piece of legacy? I talk about it because it's important that when people take the time to elect you to office, because it is the highest honor that the people can bestow upon you, you need to have enough love and respect to show up to do your job. Even when you do not have the ability to stop things, you need to be there, making sure that you do those things. I'm a first African American female floor leader in the history of Michigan House of Representatives. And so I have a proven track record for knowing how to get things done. When I was in Lansing, I brought home millions of dollars for various projects. I fought and I saved a couple of businesses that folks were going to shut down. The state of Michigan was going to shut those businesses down. I stopped it. I saved Wayne County Community College from becoming devastating because one of my colleagues decided to introduce a bill that would certainly have destroyed that community college, and we need that community college in here. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and so I share that with you because once I went through breast cancer, I didn't just feel sorry for myself. What I decided to do is to go out and educate other people, other women, Black women in particular, because Black women die 40% more from breast cancer than white women. There's something wrong with that picture. And so we need people who are constantly on the battlefield. We want to make sure that that health department is used as a really, really good resource for Detroiters. We need to be able to do that. We want to make sure that our senior citizens have access to that senior citizen department. I mean, seniors have retired and they want to be able to live safe in their homes. They want to be able to not have to be evicted because of high rising rent costs. And that's happening a lot. There are a lot of evictions that are here in the city of Detroit. Those are the kinds of things that we have to address. And I don't have to tell you all about this whole tax assessment piece. We have got over assessment piece. We have to make sure that we address that. And so I've begun to address it in one way in particular. I had a conversation with someone from the Michigan Tax Tribunal, and I said, that we need to find a way to make people whole. You see, when we address that whole property tax issue, we have to collaborate with the state because, the state is kind of the last stop. And when people when they go down to the city of Detroit, they appeal their property taxes, they won't get any help. They have a right to appeal to the state of Michigan. We want to make all of those things happen. I bring that type of experience to the table because what I can do, I can walk on the House or the Senate floor anytime as a former state legislator, and I can sit down next to my colleague. We have to continue to educate people, our colleagues, those who are in office about the needs of the city of Detroit. We are not without issues in this city. I was listening to some of the other candidates and they talked about what are the most important issues. Oh my goodness, they all are. Each candidate said something that was extremely critical to the city of Detroit. I cannot say that crime is not important because it is absolutely critical. People want to feel safe. Access, people not having opportunity to purchase these homes, this land and so forth. All of those things are critical. So I agree with what the candidate said. But if we don't find a way to stop these evictions, we have to find a way to truly address affordable housing. And I hear a lot of that. And I'm sharing that part because I hear that so much when I'm visiting, when I'm out in the community. People cannot handle that. Their income cannot handle that. We've got to have true affordable housing. We don't just want to use the buzz phrase anymore. We want to make sure that it's the true thing, the real thing. And so I'm asking Detroiters to vote for me because I have a proven track record and because I'm willing to go work hard. I'm willing to fight for you on your behalf. I'm not going to be the type of person just to go along with anything. I'm going to make sure that I do my own homework. I'm going to do my own research. I'm going to read things that come across the table. And when something is not right, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to stand up and I'm going to stand strong on behalf of Detroiters because that's exactly what we need. I'll stop with the introduction part there. I mean, I get pretty emotional about the things, the way things are going in the city, and you have there aren't any checks and balances, at that table. There just aren't any. And my goodness, city council members, too many of them have just forgotten about why they're there. They are public servants. I want people to truly understand the true definition of public servant. And I just don't think that they do. Because you see, if you understood that, then you would know that it is about the people that you represent and it is not about you.
It's true. So true. Thank you for that comment. Each of the candidates, I can sense, I can feel your passion, your energy, your level of commitment to do the right thing. And I really applaud you. Miss Philpott Burke, how are we doing on time? Because I do have a few questions. I want to go back to a point that Miss Waters raised about overtaxation.
We also have a few questions in the chat.
Okay. Are we okay, Miss Philpott Burke, to begin?
Yes, we're doing fine on time and we can handle the questions.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to begin with this overtaxation. I understand there's like $600 million in property taxes due back to the citizens of Detroit. And I heard Ms. Waters say she's beginning to address that. Are there other comments? I see Ms. Small wants to comment.
So last year, and actually, let me say something. It's more than $600 million that we've been overtaxed. It's closer to $1 billion. So we have a couple of issues here. Last year in February, right before COVID, I organized with a few other activists. We filled up Irma Henderson and we had demanded a public hearing from City Council because they just simply were going to ignore the fact that so many citizens have been complaining for well over a decade. And now this news article had came out and it was beginning to make national news, similar to, remember when we first had that first wave of so many foreclosures and that had made national news, it was on MSNBC. They were just going to ignore it and not really address it. So we demanded a public hearing. I helped to organize, get people bus rides so they didn't have to pay for parking. I called hundreds, almost 1,000 people to tell them how much they had been overtaxed. And so we filled up the auditorium and people were livid. We had known for quite some time that something was wrong, to have such inadequate city services, to not have access to quality lighting and things of that nature. And you're constantly being charged and they're telling you at a property value that you would have to be awfully lucky to be able to sell your home to get that value of the home, and nothing was ever done. So I submitted a resolution that following week, and this is what the resolution said to City Council. While I too would like to get my check cut because they owe me more than $8,000 on one of my homes, you can't, because the time had expired unless you had been overtaxed within the last 2 years. So for the rest of us, this is what they should offer. Give us a tax credit every summer and winter, maybe around 25% of what they owe us until you exhaust the amount that you owe the person who had been overtaxed. This will allow for us to be compliant with the state laws, which is you must go through the tax tribunal in order to be able to get a credit or get a refund on your taxes if it's past that 1 year mark. And because we had exhausted that, we wouldn't be in violation if they give us a credit. Okay. And then it still will allow the city to generate revenue every year, because then the taxpayer will be responsible for the other portion. Now, what about those people who lost their homes due to being overtaxed for far less, for far more than what they owed? We had some people who had lost their home for less than $1,000, but they had been overtaxed more than $5,000 on their home, and the city just absolutely refused to address the issue. And so what's happening right now is that the issue is still going on. That resolution has been dead in the water at City Council. They won't bring it back to the table. And here's an opportunity to do for the citizens of Detroit what the City Council has been doing over and over again for the top 1%, the wealthy, like Dan Gilbert, like the slumlord on the East Side who owned all those East Side properties, and they forgave $1.8 million in property taxes for him. But you refuse to provide some relief to the Detroiters who had been here. So for me, if elected to City Council, I am going to push that resolution because it does a couple of things. It helps to rebuild the trust of the people in our leadership. Right now, we know what's going on in City Council. There are a lot of federal investigations with the FBI. Let's just be honest. And we've had 2 people to step down, and they're all resulting in bribery charges due to relationships with contractors. We have to do something to rebuild the trust and show our Detroiters and our constituency that, hey, we are looking out for you too. We want to be fair. We want to be equitable. And I think that that's the best way to do it. And the other piece of that is that City Council is really the legislative body that's responsible for checks and balances. So what we need to see happen is we need to have that assessor come to the table, number one, before the budget hearing, definitely at that time, but also throughout the year to find out after the review, where do we stand? How many Detroiters have applied to have their property taxes reassessed, to have them lowered? How many were approved? If we start looking at these things early on and being more proactive, what we will have are people who can afford to stay in their homes, don't have to worry about this being displaced, because the only relief you're gonna get in this city is if you are within the poverty guidelines. Now, it's funny how they overtax you no matter how much money you make, but in order to get some relief, you have to fall within the poverty guidelines. So we need to take a look at providing some relief for the working middle class as well.
Thank you for those comments. Ms. Sturtevant, can you bring forth some of the questions in the chat?
We can. So one quick question that is addressed to Nicole Smith is, what is your role? What is the role of the City Council person at large?
So City Council is made up of 9 members, 7 are district. At large actually represent the entire city. What should happen, in my opinion, is that at large representative should serve as the conduit. It is so critical that right now we have consistent messaging across the city in order to make sure that we increase engagement, in order to make sure that we increase the access to information about how Detroiters can get access again to funding, whether or not it's for just their community overall or personally for themselves for home repair and overtaxing issues and things of that nature. And then the last portion is to make sure that they're a support system, in my opinion, to help fill in the gaps in the district. This is a large city. I cannot stress to you, it is literally 140 square miles. And what has happened is, since we've been divided into districts, it's almost as if the powers and the corporations are winning because they've been able to divide and conquer. I want to help bring us back to a more at-large mindset overall. And I know we used to have that with all of city council, but I don't want Detroiters fighting each other over speed humps. I want to inform them and empower them with the knowledge that the speed humps are not the solution. The solution is to have a legislative body that's going to demand that we bring those resources from downtown, and police officers that are directing traffic under a fully functioning traffic light, bring those officers into the neighborhood to really mitigate this speeding problem that we have. And instead of spending more than $50 million on facial recognition technology, as an at-large candidate, I would make sure that I'm consistent with my messaging to let Detroiters know, do you feel any safer since 2017? Because the majority of us don't. That was a waste of money. We could have used that money and actually implemented more safety resources in the neighborhood. That's the purpose of an at-large person, is to help fill in the gaps and to bridge the community and from district to district.
Okay, thank you. The next question, and this question is for everyone, what is each candidate's position on facial recognition technology?
I'll speak on that. I'm really interested into seeing more of how it works. As of right now, I think it's a bad idea. I'm not for it. When I look at reports and reviews from other cities, I see how they target the Black and brown community. I see how it's been so many different cases of misidentity with that facial recognition thing. I don't think we're ready for that. I think dollars can be used for a lot of other things than that. I mean, we got the green light camera system that's somewhat working in place, but realistically, how much crime is that really curbing? It's just the surveillance camera just showing the aftermath. Sometimes, you know, crime does get solved from that. But when we talk about facial recognition, I don't want to feel as if I'm walking into a store, walking down the street, the mindset of being misidentified for an individual that's not me, a mistaken identity with technology that has proven us not to be correct. I'm just not in favor of it, at least not at this point. And as police commissioner, I would love for them to walk me through how the whole facial recognition thing works, just so I can see it myself so that I can speak more about it and share this information with the residents. But right now, I'm not impressed by it, and I don't think that it's a great idea from what I'm finding.
I'll go next if I may. This is Angela Whitfield Calloway, candidate for Detroit City Council in District 2. And as Mr. Lavish T. Williams, I don't support facial recognition technology. And I will be the first one to vote against redoing the contract, which is up for renewal in January of 2022. One mistaken identity is one too many, in my opinion. We have a white company who has the $30 million contract down in South Carolina, designing software to identify Black folks, so Black and brown people. So I have a problem with that. Again, one misidentity is one too many. So I absolutely oppose facial recognition technology, and will vote against the contract's renewal in January of 2022.
Yes,
and thank you for the question.
Mr. McCampbell, is your hand up?
Yes, absolutely. And I know this is not an issue really related to the city clerk, but I do have to say something about it, because as I mentioned, you know, about the experience that I'm bringing is being someone who has been in the community, talking to folks about these issues. The facial recognition technology is simply broken. It's not effective. It does not work. And it misidentifies Black folks. And it has no place in the 85% Black city. That is key. And what has happened time and time again is that we have had folks in office continue to come to residents to say, here's the thing that we can do to reduce crime, but actually not doing the work to actually go into communities, to listen to folks, to see what is the true root of what's going on, right? And what is lacking in our communities, to say, what do we need, right? We have to have elected officials who would do that work. And now relating it back to the city clerk's office, That's why I'm really committed to creating a civic education corps, which will go inside to neighborhoods, again, partnering with community organizations who are already doing this work, but going door to door to ask folks what issues are happening, what are their needs, what do they need to ensure that they're living a good quality of life, and connecting the dots into how they can interact with their elected officials and public servants to make sure that those things are happening on the governmental level as much as they can. That's key, and that's how we're going to move forth on these issues that are impacting our community.
Ms. Waters, did you have a comment?
Yes, I am absolutely opposed to facial recognition. I don't know if they can ever get that right when it comes to Black and brown people. And so I am just like Angela said, if it comes to the table and I'm there, I'll be voting against it, because we cannot, people get arrested all the time. There are so many people now who are recently released from prison for a crime they did not commit. A lot of them, so many of them. And so what will happen here is that you'll have a person who will be misidentified. Then they have to try and get a lawyer. What if they can't afford one? Is the city going to appoint them one? These are the kinds of things that we simply cannot tolerate. And so, yeah, I'm just against it. I am. Until they can show me that it's going to be 100% proof, which I don't think they ever will, then I have to say no to it. I don't, they can't ever get to that point when it comes to Black and brown people. It just won't happen.
Ms. Small, is your hand up to make a comment?
Yeah, I'll just make this really quick. I echo the sentiments of what the other candidates have said, but I want to make sure before we leave off this subject that everyone here has a real clear understanding of why all of us who have spoken against this, why we're against facial recognition technology. When they were testing out and we were looking at the stats around this technology, again, of where we spent almost more than $50 million so far on this technology, it was supported by a supermajority Black council in a supermajority city. And this technology can't identify the difference between Oprah Winfrey and Michelle Obama. That's what I want you to understand. Now ask yourself, if this was in West Bloomfield and they couldn't identify distinctly the difference between two Jewish people, do you think that they would allow them to implement this technology across that entire city? Absolutely not. At some point, we have to increase our standards around here. So I just wanted to make sure that you had a better understanding of why we don't support this technology. And I still stand on the fact that money could have went into giving us more resources directly in our neighborhoods that could actually prevent crimes instead of just recording them while they're happening.
Okay. Ms. Sturfin, are there other questions in the chat?
We have one more question and a statement. So the question is a personal question, but I think it may impact other seniors. And this individual wants to know, how can they find out about low-income housing for seniors? They've been on a waiting list for 4 years, and it seems that they're not getting anywhere. And how long do they have to wait?
Good question.
Who's going to take that one?
I'll take it.
Okay.
Let me tell you why we don't have real affordable housing now. It's because we used to have what was called low income housing. Some of you may be more familiar with that. And what has happened is that now we have affordable housing, but affordable for whom? So you have what's called an AMI, and you'll hear that quite often. That's average median income. So now they're basing it, which are HUD standards, off of the average income of Detroit, Livonia, and Warren. But when you go to Livonia and Warren, they don't worry about the average income of Detroit. I always find that interesting, but that's the HUD part of it. What has happened is that City Council has not leveraged its negotiating power, that before they hand over this land for pennies on a dollar for development, and the agreement is to provide probably about 20% affordable housing, they don't put any safeguards in there. So the Detroiters have to make almost $50-something thousand a year just to qualify for the affordable units, but the average Detroiter makes less than $27,000 a year. This is why we have so many seniors on a fixed income, and I talk to them every week, almost daily. And a lot of them want to move into some of the newer developments, but they simply don't qualify because the city has gone along to get along, giving away our land, giving away our tax subsidies without explicit terms in that agreement to say, hey, there needs to be a certain portion of affordable housing if we're going to give you this at the expense of the people that provides affordability for the average income of just Detroiters. And we can do that. We can absolutely do that. And then here's the next part. Do you know the majority of those units that are affordable are studio apartments? Now you tell me how many seniors coming out of a home, you know, they like to take a lot of their stuff with them. They do not want to live in a studio, and neither does most of the single parents or even families right now. So we need someone again to negotiate that. And the waiting list is quite long. I will be honest, we have some nice facilities here in the city of Detroit, but for the most part, the nicer ones are already full to capacity. There are very little vacancies, which is really heartbreaking. And then the other ones, somebody needs to go around and do an inspection. That's all I'll say.
Waters, were you trying to make a comment? Miss Waters? No?
Yeah. Well, no. Well, actually, you know, I sort of mentioned affordable housing in my opening statement, and it's something that I encounter almost on a daily basis when it comes to our seniors and other renters, and that is something that absolutely I plan to address. But if I should be fortunate enough to get to city council on behalf of the people, we have to do that. And so I am currently in the process of trying to help some people right now who are seniors find a home that they can live with that fits their income. And I want to extend that same offer to the person in the chat. If they would just call me at 313-338-8501, let me help them move up that list or find them something that they can live with. 313-338-8501. And so, and until I get there, I'm empowered to make some changes, all the changes that Candidate Small talked about, all those things that are needed. I agree 100%. Let me try and help one person at a time. That's what I can do right now.
Well, thank you so much. Okay, that number's in the chat? Yes. Yes, Mary Waters, 313-338-8501. Two quick questions, and then I'm going to hand this back over to Ms. Philpott Burke.
So, Phyllis, before you do that, can I give you the comment that someone made in the chat?
All right, okay.
We had one comment. It says assessors need to stop assessing properties from the view of their cars. Any comments on that?
Ms. Small, I see you're nodding.
I agree. I agree. I would just add one thing to that. We also need an assessor's office that's not running an assembly line in February when you go to have your property reassessed. That's another problem that we have. They're processing these applications without really looking into them. And so you're lucky if they come and drive by your house, to be honest with you. A lot of times they stay in City Hall and KMAX. So, but I definitely agree with that. That's a great point.
Oh, it is. This is Mary Waters. I tell you, it's a pet peeve of mine. It is clearly a pet peeve of mine. These assessors, I don't know what in the world they are doing, but it's time to put a stop to it. It truly is. And appraisers too. They're all kind of work together. Appraisers sometimes will not tell the truth about what your home is worth. They do it based on a favor to somebody else. These are problems that we've been having for a very long time. You guys remember several years ago when there was an issue about all of these homes in Detroit some years ago that had been overappraised and so forth. Anybody recall that one?
Yes.
But it's a problem that we have, and we've got to either we're going to address it at the city level or we're going to have to address it at the state level. it has to be done because Detroiters just cannot survive this way. We are robbing the citizens of this city, and it's just wrong.
And any questions, last question on housing and assessing, any comments on NEZ?
On what?
Homestead, NEZ?
On neighborhood enterprise zones?
Yes.
Okay. Well, in order for most communities to be able to participate, it's going to have, the city will have to, grant it for various communities to participate in the NEZs. Now, I will tell you this, when I was in Lansing, when I was a state rep, I did the research on NEZs. I made it happen. Based on my research, I sent it to the mayor's office and said, this is what we need to do. And I will tell you all, but for political reasons, my bill was taken away from me. I didn't get to do the bill, but I didn't fight about it because another Detroiter did get it. And the reason I didn't fight about it is because it was bigger than me. The issue itself, I just wanted Detroiters to be able to have access to an NEZ. And so I left that alone. I think it's critical. Now we have to go back in, and it has to be done at the state level. And the city can do so much in terms of bringing other neighborhoods in. They can do that. But there's another piece of it for sure that's going to have to go back to the state in order to grant even more communities access to NEZ. And it does help with property taxes. It really does. It gives people a break for 10 years or something like that. Everybody could use that kind of break. They really could.
Ms. Small, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I agree with what Candidate Waters said, but I just want to bring a little bit more context. The form of which Ms. Waters probably presented it was to be a more holistic approach to help more neighborhoods across the city. The problem is that in this administration, if nothing else, they're always thinking ahead, all right? They always have a short and a long-term plan. So what has happened is that you'll notice that when you start seeing influx of new people moving into your neighborhood, all of a sudden you would be eligible for an NEZ. Instead of making sure that those neighborhoods who have been experiencing a hardship for taxes that they can't afford and things like that, instead of spreading the love equitably across the city, they don't. Typically, they're targeting the areas that have a lot more gentrification in them. But last year, the city did send out letters talking about the NEZ and how they could get on a call. But you know what the problem with that was? Nobody knew what they were talking about. I knew what they were talking about. A few other people knew what they were talking about, but the average Detroiter who owns a home had no idea. The letter really didn't help you draw the right conclusions. You know, it should have been screaming out, do you need lower taxes? Come and get on this call, you know, something like that. But that's what's happening with the NEZ now. I think it's a great idea, only if it's enforced and implemented in a more equitable way to help more Detroiters across the city.
And to that end, Candidate Small, that is absolutely true. The other part that they need to do with those NEZs for people who bought their homes, who purchased their homes prior to, say, 1994, they need to be able to have access to those because those people are not included. But these are people who have just stayed here year after year after year after year, and we're not giving them access to those NEZs right now. And so we need to open it up for them as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, my last question might be a little explosive, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What are your thoughts on the redistricting maps? The redistrict. Yes.
I can take that first. And
Okay.
and my apologies, I will have to hop off in a couple of minutes here. I'm so sorry to leave early, but here's what I'll tell folks, and I'm going to be completely transparent. I was part of the early planning group around independent redistricting reform. And I think a lot of folks understood the need to take, partisan reach out of the redrawing of the lines and make sure that our communities were represented and had districts that represented our communities well and not the interests of political parties. I think folks agree on that. But what we've seen with this independent redistricting commission is that actually influence of certain folks who don't want, I would just say, Detroit voice, Black voices, to have a strong voice in the legislature and in our congressional delegation. And that's a very upsetting and unfortunate thing that's going on. We have to truly have an independent process and commissioners on that commission that take into account that I live by Rouge Park, and one of the maps cut us off or half of Rouge Parks and puts us with Livonia. I'll tell you that, folks that are living over here in Far West and Castle Rouge and such don't have common interests with folks in Livonia. And actually, it will make it harder for us to elect those who have our best interests in mind. And that's the key point that is very disturbing, that is very dangerous. So they are having the public hearings right now. I will encourage folks to continue to attend. I know we had a great showing yesterday in the city of Detroit at TCF. You can attend virtually to the meetings that aren't around here. If you just go to the Michigan Independent Redistricting Commission website, and I'll put it in the chat. But I'll tell you, Ms. Reynolds, is that I've been very disappointed in the way that the commission has gone about their business, because this is not the true intent, and this is not why we went out and voted to have an independent commission. So please, folks, please stay involved. Let them know that not only Black representation, but also our communities and the interests that we share need to be respected. The civil rights director in the state of Michigan said that these violate the Voting Rights Act. Right. And we had the late, great John Conyers, Congressman Conyers, who worked on the Voting Rights Act, the late, great John Lewis, who worked on the Voting Rights Act, and then the countless of folks who died to get us to a place to have the Voting Rights Act. We cannot allow this commission to disrespect that work, and please stay involved with it. So thank you so much for all having me tonight. And I'm so sorry that I have to leave out early.
Thank you for your contribution. We appreciate it. And Ms. Small, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, I agree with what Commissioner McCampbell has said, but let me say this. If there was ever a time that we should have been following in the footsteps of John Lewis and to get into some good trouble, it should have been once we saw how the people that they picked on the board, right? When we first saw the list of hearings and where they were going to be located, sometimes I do become frustrated with the fact that we're slow to move. And a lot of times we put our community in a pressure cooker instead of being more proactive and having a plan to address these issues. I remember being on the calls early on last year when they had actually showed us the list of hearings and where they will be located. The saddest part is then there were more people from up 75 and outside the city of Detroit who really didn't look like those of us who are going to be most severely impacted if this map actually goes through. And they were talking about the inequity of the drawing of the map. The only thing that probably will save us now from having our political power disempowered and diminished is if you just simply do this. I don't care if it's your kid, your grandkid, the neighbor's kid, your sister, your brother, whoever. You need to get them to get on this call and you give them what to say during this public hearing. They need to feel the pressure that we are not going to accept this easily. I am being honest with you. If we lose this political power, trust me when I tell you, I don't think any of us will be around to see ourselves get back, because I don't think we'll be able to regain it and to get it back, not even in another 10 years when they do this process all over again. So please, we are going to have to do something a lot more than just raising our hand. We're going to have to let them know this won't be tolerated, and apply some pressure to your elected officials up top in the state and Congress, and let them know they are going to have to speak up as well.
Thank you for those remarks. And I know individuals have other commitments, and so I'm going to kick this back over to Mrs. Phil Parker, and you can close us out or you can redirect us.
Okay. Thank you to all of you, excuse me, you who have participated, particularly to our moderators, Ms. Reynolds, Ms. McClanahan, and Mr. Primos. But before we close it out, I'd like to have some comments from our pastor, Dr. Diane Moore, Robin Diane Moore, who has some comments for us before we close.
Good evening. What a lively conversation I have been listening to. Let me share that I want to say thank you to all of you who have taken the time out of your busy schedules. That includes campaigning and making a voice for others that you might be able to seek the election that you are aspiring to be. It is my prayer that for every voice that I've heard today, that God would allow you, and God actually commands you to live up to what you have represented and what you have said. To be an elected official to me is to be a voice to the voiceless. To be an elected official is to move what you have said tonight into action. You represent us. You represent justice. And if I were to reflect on a passage very passionate to myself that comes out of Amos chapter 5, that says, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. We know we often heard it over and over again by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. When I think about that verse, it brings me to three primary principles that I pray that you will continue to advocate for. Because when we think about those who are dealing with the pressures of not being able to vote, when we think about those who need to be educated, when we think about the blight that sits right around the Church of First Baptist Institutional on 7 Mile Road, when we think about the lack of educational opportunities, when we think about the fact that we need strong police commissioner representation, it brings me to these three principles that I would anticipate or request that you demonstrate and lead by, and that is equality, fairness, and access. And so I charge you on this day to keep doing what you're doing, to never feel like you've ever lost the fight or lost the race, because the word tells us that we keep pressing forward in what God has called us to do. May God bless you. May God keep you as you continue to do the work that we say is the work of the Lord, and understanding where you are in your position. If there's anything that we can do to be of some support to you without compromising the fact that we have to stay separation between church and state, please do not hesitate to reach out to our Ministry of Social Justice Chair, Sandra Philpott-Burt, and we will do our best to be of support to you. May God bless you and keep you on this evening.
Thank you.
As we close out, I'd really like to thank all of our candidates for participating. These are not the only candidates that you will see on your ballot when you vote on November 2nd. However, we hope that the information that they provided to you will make you informed voters so that when you go to the polls on November 2nd, you can make an informed choice. I'd like to encourage you to remind your family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, and everybody, in the words of the late Congressman John Lewis, and I quote, "The vote is precious. It is the most powerful nonviolent tool we have in a democratic society, and we must use it. Vote November 2nd. Thank you all, and good evening."
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Look forward to more sessions from First Baptist Institutional Church Ministry of Social Justice.